1:44 a.m. The Red Sea, 119 nautical miles northwest of the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. The sea here runs between the African coast of Eritrea to the west and the Yemeni coast to the northeast. A body of water 220 miles wide at this latitude, narrowing steadily toward the strait that separates it from the Gulf of Aden. The surface temperature is 29 degrees Celsius, wind at 14 knots from the north, sea state 2, a moderate chop that sets every small surface contact riding differently than a warship and makes radar discrimination between commercial traffic, fishing dhows, and armed surface vehicles a continuous exercise in pattern recognition. The air is clear. Stars visible. No moon. Task Force 153 is transiting north in the standard formation. A convoy escort configuration covering 3 commercial vessels bound for the Suez Canal. The commercial ships, the container vessel MV Pacific Meridian flagged to the Marshall Islands, the bulk carrier MV Adriatic Star flagged to Greece, and the LNG tanker MV Coral Bay flagged to Norway. Combined cargo value assessed at $460 million. Combined cargo significance more important than the dollar figure, because Coral Bay's liquefied natural gas is contracted to Southern European customers whose winter energy security depends on its delivery. Escorting them north, the USS Carney, DDG-64, an Arleigh Burke-class Flight 1 guided missile destroyer, 28 years in service and still among the most capable air defense platforms in the U.S. Navy's inventory. Alongside her, the USS Winston S. Churchill, DDG-81, a Flight 2A Arleigh Burke, her systems updated to Aegis Baseline 9.C1 during her 2021 yard period. Between the 2 destroyers, 1 nautical mile ahead of the Lid commercial ship, the USS San Jacinto, CG-56, a Ticonderoga-class cruiser, her SPY-1A radar sweeping 360 degrees in continuous active search. Above the formation at 22,000 feet, an E-2D Advanced Hawkeye from Carrier Air Wing 7, operating off the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower, 180 miles to the northeast, pushes its AN/APY-9 radar picture into the Link 16 network. Above the horizon to the east, invisible and watching, a P-8A Poseidon from Patrol Squadron 8 orbits at 12,000 feet with its AN/A PY-10 surface search radar in maritime surveillance mode, covering the Yemeni coastline from the Bab el-Mandeb to Hudaydah. The Houthi movement had been conducting maritime strike operations against shipping in the Red Sea since October 2023. More than 200 attacks, forcing major shipping companies to reroute around the Cape of Good Hope at enormous cost. Each engagement with U.S. Navy warships had been analyzed and incorporated into a planning process that was patient and ruthlessly focused on identifying the defensive seam that would allow a coordinated attack to succeed where individual attacks had not. Tonight, they believed they had found it. The attack concept was the product of 6 months of planning by Houthi military commanders working with Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy advisors whose experience in developing maritime strike doctrine for exactly this environment was deep and current. The concept, a 3-axis simultaneous attack combining ballistic missiles arriving from above, a drone and cruise missile swarm arriving from the northeast, and a fast boat surface assault from the west. 3 separate threat profiles arriving in a timing window designed to saturate the defensive architecture by forcing it to engage fundamentally different weapon types on divergent bearings at the same moment. From the highlands of Hadja Province, 37 kilometers inland from the Red Sea coast, 4 Asef ballistic missiles, the Houthi variant of the Iranian Fateh, 313 short-range ballistic missile, solid fuel, inertial guidance with a GPS correction capability, assessed range 300 kilometers, warhead weight 450 kilograms. The 4 missiles would launch simultaneously and arrive on the formation's lead ship in a near-vertical terminal descent at Mach 3.8 from directly above within 90 seconds of each other, from concealed positions along the Houthi coastline. 31 Shahed 136 loitering munitions, and 6 Quds 3 anti-ship cruise missiles, launched in staggered sequence to arrive on the formation simultaneously with the final ballistic warheads. The Shahed 136S would approach at low altitude from the northeast. The Quds 3, a Houthi-produced variant of the Iranian Sumar cruise missile with a sea-skim and terminal profile and active radar Hohmann, would approach from the east, their seekers programmed to lock onto the largest radar return in the formation. From the coastal waters west of the Yemeni port of Muka, 12 Houthi-operated Shark 33 fast inshore attack craft, each crewed by 4 personnel and armed with 1 DST, 1 anti-ship rocket launcher mounted at the bow, and 2 DSHK heavy machine guns. The boats would approach at 41 knots from the west, the bearing least covered by the formation's standard defensive geometry, which was oriented northeast toward Yemen. They would close to 2,000 meters and fire their anti-ship rockets at the commercial vessel's waterlines. The timing was the weapon. 4 ballistic warheads arriving from above, 37 cruise missiles and drones from the northeast and east, 12 fast boats from the west, all arriving within a 6-minute window. The Houthi planners had computed that no 3-ship defensive formation could simultaneously engage ballistic, cruise missile, and surface threats on 3 separate bearings without a seam, a moment where one threat axis was underdefended as the engagement radars committed to another. They made 6 catastrophic mistakes. The first mistake, the P-8A. The Poseidon maritime patrol aircraft orbiting off the Yemeni coast was not in the Houthi targeting model as a primary defensive sensor. The P-8A had been on station since 9 p.m., 4.5 hours before the attack initiated, under a heightened surveillance tasking generated by an intelligence report 48 hours earlier that specifically flagged elevated Houthi communications traffic at the Hajj province ballistic missile sites and the Houthi coastal launch positions. The P-8A's AN/APY-10 radar in inverse synthetic aperture mode had been building a surface track picture of the Yemeni coast for 4.5 hours. When the 12 Shark 33 fast boats departed their coastal concealment positions at 1:31 a.m., 13 minutes before the attack initiated, the P-8A detected them within 40 seconds. The boats were logged as Surf Track Lima, classified as fast inshore attack craft, and transmitted to the formation's Link 16 network at 1:32 a.m. The surface assault was detected before the ballistic missiles launched. The second mistake, the ballistic launch signature. 4 Asef missiles launching simultaneously from Hajj province produced an infrared signature detected by SBIRS within 3 seconds of ignition. The SBIRS alert reached the formation via sea to BMC at 1:44 a.m. and 7 seconds. 7 seconds after the first Asef left its launcher. The formation had 4 minutes and 20 seconds before the first ballistic warhead reached engagement range. Against a Patriot-equipped defensive architecture, 4 minutes and 20 seconds is an entirely manageable warning window. Against the USS San Jacinto's Aegis Baseline 5.1 with SM-2, Block 3B in ballistic engagement mode, it was more than sufficient. The third mistake, the Quds 3 radar seeker. The 6 Quds 3 anti-ship cruise missiles were programmed to activate their active radar seekers at approximately 30 kilometers from the formation and lock onto the largest radar return, the USS San Jacinto, which at 11,000 tons was significantly larger than the destroyers on her flanks. The Quds 3's seeker frequency band had been characterized by the USS Carney's AN/SLQ 32 V6 electronic warfare system during a previous engagement 14 weeks earlier, when a single Quds 3 had been defeated. That frequency characterization was in the Carney's jamming library. When the 6 Quds 3 seekers activated at 30 kilometers, the SLQ-32 began transmitting structured noise in the seeker's acquisition band within 2 seconds of seeker activation. 3 of the 6 Quds 3 missiles locked onto the electronic jamming return, a ghost target positioned 8 nautical miles south of the formation, and flew there, finding nothing. 3 retained lock on the actual formation. The fourth mistake, the western approach axis. The 12 Shark 33 fast boats approaching from the west were detected 13 minutes before the attack and tracked continuously by the P-8A for the entire approach. The Houthi planners had chosen the western bearing because it was the bearing least immediately covered by the formation's air defense geometry. The Spy-1A and Spy-1D radars were primarily oriented northeast toward the Yemen threat axis. What the planners had not accounted for was the USS Churchill's SH-60R Seahawk helicopter, which had been on surface surveillance patrol on the formation's western flank since 11 p.m., its FLIR turret scanning the dark Red Sea surface. The helicopter crew had the 12 Shark 33 boats on their display from the moment the P-8A transmitted the Surf Track Lima classification. They had been watching the boats approach for 13 minutes before weapons free was authorized. They were in position and ready before the first Asef ignited. The fifth mistake, the simultaneous timing signature. The decision to launch all 3 attack axes within a 30-second window to achieve the simultaneous arrival that was the tactical concept's central premise meant that the 3 launch events occurred so close together that the combined sensor picture showed the complete attack architecture within 11 seconds of the first launch. The SBIRS alert, the P-8A's fast boat track, and the E-2D's detection of the Shahed launch transients from the Houthi coast were all on the formation's display simultaneously. There was no ambiguity about what was coming, from where, and in what sequence. The engagement planning was complete before any weapon reached its effective range. The sixth mistake was the belief that quantity overcomes quality. Against a 3-ship American formation with networked Aegis, coordinated electronic warfare, and sensor coverage from an E-2D and a P-8A, the number of attacking weapons is a secondary variable. The primary variables are defensive integration quality and magazine depth. On both measures, the Task Force 153 escort exceeded the attacking force by a margin that made the outcome predetermined from the moment the attack was detected. At 1:44 a.m. and 7 seconds, the weapon's free authorization transmits across the formation. All units, this is San Jacinto. Weapons free. All threat axes. Execute. The USS San Jacinto fires first, against the 4 Asef ballistic tracks, now 4 minutes from predicted impact altitude above the formation. 8 SM-2. Block 3B missiles launched from the cruiser's forward VLS cells in a 10-second ripple, climbing vertically and tilting northeast toward the inbound ballistic tracks. The SM-2 Block 3B in terminal ballistic mode uses its infrared terminal seeker to acquire the kinetic heating signature of the descending warhead sections. The first Asef warhead is intercepted at 21 kilometers altitude, 42 kilometers northeast of the formation. Direct proximity detonation. The warhead fragments fall into the Red Sea. Second Asef, intercepted at 19 kilometers altitude. Third, 18 kilometers. Fourth, 23 kilometers. All 4 Asef warheads eliminated before they reach the atmosphere's lower layers. No fragments reach the formation. Simultaneously, the USS Carney's SLQ-32 is fully committed to jamming the Shahed 136 navigation frequencies, the 900 MHz GPS reception band, and the 2.4 GHz coordination data link, flooding both with structured noise. Of 31 Shaheds, 22 lose GPS coherence within 90 seconds of launch and begin flying degraded inertial courses that carry them off their programmed approach vectors. 9 Shaheds maintain inertial approach bearing. The USS Churchill engages the 9 surviving Shaheds with evolved Sea Sparrow Missile Block 2, 12 ESSM Block 2 in a staggered ripple, 1 per Shahed with 3 backup rounds assigned to the highest priority tracks. 8 Shaheds are intercepted at ranges between 8 and 18 nautical miles from the formation. 1 Shahed survives the ESSM Salvo, a vehicle running on battery backup after the SLQ-32 jamming disrupted its propulsion control data link, flying at reduced speed but still inbound. The Churchill's forward phalanx CIWS acquires it at 1,800 meters. A 1-second burst of 20mm tungsten at 4,500 rounds per minute renders it inoperable at 1,200 meters. It falls into the Red Sea 200 meters off the Churchill's port bow. The 3 Quds, 3 cruise missiles that retained lock on actual formation, approach the San Jacinto from the east at sea. Skimming altitude, 12 meters above the Red Sea surface, Mach 0.82, seekers locked on the cruiser's radar cross-section. The USS Carney fires 6 SM-2, Block 3B missiles in pairs against the 3 Quads, 3 tracks, 2 interceptors per target, providing a layered intercept opportunity for each. The first Quds 3 is intercepted at 14 nautical miles by the lead SM-2. The second at 11 nautical miles. The third, Quds 3, defeats the lead SM-2. The interceptor's proximity fuse activates, but the fragmentation pattern clips the missile's wing rather than its guidance section, causing a course deviation that the Quds 3's seeker corrects within 3 seconds. The backup, SM-2, approaching from a slightly different angle, detonates at 2.8 meters from the Quds 3's seeker head. The missile goes ballistic. It impacts the Red Sea at Mach 0.65 nautical miles short of the San Jacinto. Its warhead fusing conditions not met. The cruiser is untouched. The western surface threat is prosecuted on 4 weapon systems in parallel. The SH-60R Seahawk helicopter, which has been tracking the 12 Shark 33 boats for 14 minutes, fires its first AGM-114R Hellfire missile at 1:44 a.m. and 22 seconds, 15 seconds after weapons free. The Hellfire's laser seeker tracks the thermal signature of the lead boat's outboard engine. Impact at 1.7 nautical miles. The boat is rendered inoperable and its crew is removed from the engagement. The helicopter fires its second Hellfire before the first impact confirms. Third. Fourth. The SH-60R carries 8 Hellfire missiles. It fires them at a rhythm of 1 every 4 seconds, working through the approaching boat formation from lead to trail. 8 boats engaged. 8 rendered inoperable or mission neutralized in 32 seconds of systematic engagement. 4 Shark 33 boats survived the Hellfire engagement. They had been positioned in the rearward echelon of the formation, still 5 nautical miles from the commercial ships when the helicopter exhausted its Hellfire load. The USS Kearney's forward Mark 38 Mod 2 25mm chain gun, slewed to the western bearing by its remote operator inside the Combat Direction Center, opens fire at 3 nautical miles. The chain gun's EO/IR targeting system tracks the boat hulls against the Red Sea surface in the pre-dawn darkness. At 230 rounds per minute, the 25mm high-explosive incendiary rounds impact the fiberglass and aluminum Shark 33 hulls at ranges between 2 and 3 nautical miles. 2 boats are rendered inoperable by direct hits on their engine banks. 2 more are disabled when their crew positions take fragmentation hits that prevent continued operation of the vessel. All 12 Shark 33 fast boats neutralized. 0 reached the commercial ships. 0 reached weapons employment range of any U.S. Navy vessel. 1:57 a.m., 13 minutes after the first Asef ignited in Houthi province. 4 ballistic warheads intercepted. 31 Shaheds, 22 defeated by electronic jamming, 8 by ESSM, 1 by phalanx. 6 Cuds, 3 missiles, 3 deceived by SLQ, 32 ghost targeting, 3 intercepted by SM-2. 12 Shark 33 fast boats, 8 by Hellfire, 4 by 25mm chain gun. 0 weapons reached any commercial vessel. 0 weapons reached any U.S. Navy ship. 0 American casualties. 0 crew casualties on the 3 commercial ships. The San Jacinto's TAO transmits his post-engagement summary in the same measured cadence he uses for a weather report. All stations, San Jacinto. All threat axes neutralized. 0 hull contact, 0 casualties on all formation ships. 3 commercial vessels continue transit, 0 damage. Counterstrike package authorized. Execute Red Anvil. Red Anvil had existed in the 5th Fleet Contingency Planning Library since the first Houthi ballistic missile attack on a U.S. warship. It was updated monthly as the intelligence picture on Houthi launch infrastructure evolved. The most recent update had been 48 hours earlier, incorporating the elevated communications intelligence that had flagged the Houthi province ballistic sites and the Houthi coastal launchers as operationally active. Every target coordinate was current. Every aim point was reviewed and cleared. At 1:58 a.m., the USS San Jacinto opens 14 VLS cells. 14 Tomahawk Block 5 missiles launch from the cruiser's forward deck in a 17-second ripple, heading northeast toward Yemen at 550 knots. USS Kearney fires 12 Tomahawks 20 seconds later. USS Churchill fires 10 Tomahawks 22 seconds after Kearney. 36 Tomahawks total. 4 target complexes. Target Complex 1. The Asef ballistic missile launch position in Houthi province, the prepared firing site from which all 4 missiles had been launched. The SBIRS back computation and AN/T PY2 launch point triangulation had placed the launch origin within a 150-meter radius. The satellite imagery from 48 hours earlier had shown a prepared launch area with revetted vehicle positions and propellant storage structures at this location. 8 Tomahawks. The launch area revetments take 4 penetrating warheads. The propellant storage building takes 2 warheads with incendiary delay fusing. The command and fire control vehicle, a wheeled platform whose position had been logged by the P-8A's ISAR radar for 2 hours before it relocated post-launch, takes the 7th warhead at its post-launch dispersal position 14 kilometers southwest of the original site. The 8th Tomahawk strikes the communications relay tower that had connected the Hadja province command element to the Houthi Strategic Military Headquarters in Sana'a. Target Complex 2. The Shahed and Quds 3 launch compound at Houthi, the coastal position from which the 37 loitering munitions and 6 cruise missiles had been launched. Satellite imagery had identified the compound clearly: a walled facility with vehicle storage, a weapons preparation building where Shaheds were assembled and fueled before launch, and a launch preparation area with surveyed launch vectors toward the Red Sea shipping corridor. 10 Tomahawks. The weapons preparation building takes 4 penetrating warheads. The vehicle storage area takes 3. The command post and the launch preparation infrastructure take 2 warheads and 1 with incendiary fusion against the fuel storage tank that imagery had shown adjacent to the western wall. Target Complex 3. The Shark 33 fast boat staging base at Muka, the small harbor facility from which the 12 attack craft had sortied. P-8A post-engagement imagery had identified the facility clearly: a jetty complex with boat shelters, a fuel and maintenance building, and a weapons storage structure for the DST-1 rocket systems carried by the Shark 33s. The facility had 14 additional Shark 33 hulls in covered storage, assessed as the reserve inventory for the Western Assault Force. 6 Tomahawks. The boat shelters take 4 warheads. The weapons storage building takes 2. Secondary detonations as stored DST-1 rocket propellant ignites confirm the assessment of the facility's inventory. Target Complex 4. The Houthi Maritime Operations Coordination Facility at Ras Isa Port, north of Houthi. The command node identified by Signals Intelligence as the headquarters element from which tonight's 3-axis attack had been coordinated. The facility's satellite communications arrays had been radiating on identified frequencies throughout the operation, providing the formation's SLQ-32 with a precise geolocation. A reinforced building with backup power and external communications infrastructure. 8 Tomahawks. The communications arrays go first. The main building takes 4 Block 5 penetrating warheads. The backup power facility and the vehicle compound take the remaining warheads. At 2:03 a.m., 2MQ-9 Reaper unmanned aircraft from Camp Lemonnier in Djibouti, retasked from their standard Red Sea surveillance orbit at 1:49 a.m., reach the Houthi coastal area and conduct immediate battle damage assessment over Target Complex 2. Their FLIR sensors detect 2 Quds 3 launcher vehicles that had not been in the pre-strike imagery, apparently moved to the Houthi compound from a dispersal position during the strike package's flight time. Both vehicles engaged with AGM-114R Hellfires, both rendered inoperable. The MQ-9S then proceed to the Hadja province area and confirm secondary fires at Target Complex 1 consistent with propellant storage detonation. At 2:11 a.m., 4 FA-18E Super Hornets from the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower, which had been on airborne alert at medium altitude 100 miles northeast since 1:30 a.m. under the elevated threat posture tasking, delivered 12 AGM-88E advanced anti-radiation guided missiles against 3 Houthi coastal air defense radar sites on the Yemeni coast. Radar systems whose emissions had been logged by the formation's electronic warfare systems throughout the engagement and whose positions had been incorporated into the Red Anvil targeting package. All 3 radar sites, silenced. By 2:19 a.m., 35 minutes after the first Asef missile launched, the Red Anvil counterstrike is complete. Battle damage assessment. 5th Fleet Intelligence at 4 a.m., Hadja Province Asef launch site, revetments destroyed, propellant storage destroyed with secondary detonation, command vehicle destroyed at dispersal position. Houthi compound, weapons preparation building, vehicle storage, and command post destroyed. 2 additional Quds, 3 launchers neutralized by MQ-9. Mukah stage and base, all boat shelters destroyed, weapons storage destroyed with secondary detonation, 14 additional Shark 33 hulls assessed as neutralized in covered storage. Ras Isa Port Coordination Facility, communications destroyed, main structure severely damaged. All 3 Houthi coastal radar sites eliminated by AARGM. Estimated Houthi personnel casualties, 62 to 94. American losses, 0. USS San Jacinto, USS Carney, USS Churchill, 0 damage. 3 commercial vessels, 0 damage, transit continuing. At 2:21 a.m., the formation receives the all-clear from 5th Fleet Headquarters at NSA Bahrain. The SH-60R Seahawk recovers aboard USS Carney, and a second helicopter launches to maintain the western flank patrol. The P-8A extends its orbit over the Yemen coast, watching for any follow-on preparation. The San Jacinto's radar sweeps the Red Sea in all directions, 360 degrees of clear picture. The Eisenhower's E-2D continues its racetrack overhead. The 3 commercial ships, Pacific Meridian, Adriatic Star, Coral Bay, continue north toward the Suez Canal. Their cargoes continue. The corridor functions as it is supposed to function, free and open, protected by the warships that have been doing exactly this work through these waters. The attack architecture, 6 months in planning, was consumed in 13 minutes. The counterstrike consumed the infrastructure that produced it in 35 minutes more. The math is always the same. The corridor stays open. The ships get through. The Red Sea is open. The formation sails north.